Hello and welcome to KTN Prime on this first day of May. Happy Labor Day to you. Hopefully it was a restful one.
Happy Labor Day to you, and we start on that note. And workers in the country will now have to wait until the end of the year for a minimum wage increment.
That's right, the state did reveal this as the Federation of Kenya Employers raised the alarm that the wage burden was threatening to paralyze growth in most companies.
KTN's Samogina begins our coverage tonight.
The Labor Day celebrations ended on an anticlimax for many Kenyan workers. Poised as the time for goodies from government to workers, this time government came empty-handed, taking refuge in the wage bill crisis the Jubilee administration is facing.
Before this year ends, we will be able, after ascertaining how our economic indexes are, then that is the time we will increase salaries accordingly.
Instead, in a strongly worded statement from State House relayed by Labour Cabinet Secretary, the President has warned of workers' industrial action undermining the health of national economy. In his 4-page address, 9 paragraphs dwelled on strike actions, with the state saying 11 million man-hours were wasted last year. Government says for enhanced payment, the workers must also raise their productivity.
The government will therefore continue to encourage workers in this country to observe patience and practice a patriotic results-based work life, which will inevitably lead to better terms and conditions of employment.
Taking cognizance of industrial action engendered in the Constitution, the government is reviewing the current labor laws to minimize strike actions. Last year, the state received 44 strike notices. Consequently, the workers' union have been urged to embrace alternative dispute resolution mechanisms or institution tasked for such roles like the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
Work together with KOTU and other unions to make sure that we don't have strikes in the year 2014 going forward and 2015. So this is a mutually beneficial relationship that we must all guard against and focus on improving the performance of the economy as we come together to raise the living standards of our people.
With the majority of Kenyans seeking job opportunities in the Middle East, Foreign Affairs Ministry is drafting agreements with the Middle East countries that will ensure Kenyans there are not mistreated or exploited, as is the case. Already, Kenya has signed such a deal with Qatar. This as the KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli took issue with the NSSF management for allegedly misappropriating retirement benefits contributions.
The money they are sitting on and the money they share, the management that they apply, the investments they make, the issues of counting money that belongs to NSSF comes from these poor Kenyans. They must respect them.
Last year, workers got a 14% minimum wage increment. Samogina, KTN.
So no goodies for workers this Labor Day. Now, reading between the lines of the speeches at the Workers' Day celebrations, there were strong undercurrents of the ongoing supremacy battle between KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli and Labour's Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi. KTN's Ashamulu reports on the subtle politics that betrayed what may have informed the list of guests at the event.
They danced to the same tune and even shared light moments during the Labor Day celebrations. But the strong rhetoric at the podium was enough evidence that KOTU's Secretary General and the Labour Cabinet Secretary were not in good books.
Mheshimiwa Kambi Kazungu, tunaweza kosana, tunaweza fanya nini? Tusiingize ukabila katika zile shida zinazowakabili wananchi. Hii ni siku yenu, si siku ya serikali, si siku ya nani, ni siku ya wafanyakazi.
It was, however, the Nairobi senator who opened Pandora's box, calling the two leaders out over their ongoing battle for supremacy.
Mwache kutudanganya. Sasa mumekaa pamoja, mbona mpigani? Wakenya hawataki siasa ya propaganda.
Other leaders followed suit.
And anybody who loves this country will think twice in engaging in sponsorship of splinter groupings to weaken KOTU.
We don't want politics in the workers' union. We don't want the government to meddle in the workers' union.
When asked to bury their hatchet in front of the cameras, Atwoli and Kambi's body language spoke louder.
Nataka mkumbatiane sahi.
So, Waziri, with that hug that you did to Atwoli, I want us to, as leaders in this sector, to start singing a different tune, because we've been known for the wrong things.
The Atwoli-Kambi war of words has been ongoing for months. Atwoli has claimed that Kambi has been supporting Pusetu after KOTU refused to support him in the implementation of the NSSF Tasia 2 housing project. The KOTU Secretary General actually had this speech that focused on matters very important to the workers, such as the protection of local industries and youth employment. But he instead chose to go off cuff. In his 20-minute speech, he focused on his supremacy battles with the Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi. And most of those who came to this venue are now living with that underwhelming feeling that perhaps this day was not really about the worker. Asha Mwilu, KTN, Nairobi.
Well, it wasn't the most ideal Labor Day for Pusetu. Attempts by the Federation of Public Service Trade Unions of Kenya to mark Labor Day celebrations at Uhuru Park were thwarted by the General Service Unit. The GSU officers enforced a court order that barred Pusetu from interfering with the Labor Day fete organized by KOTU. But, as Patrick Amimo tells us now, this did not deter Pusetu from putting their own mark on this year's Labor Day.
From the Kenya National Union of Teachers head office on Mfangano Street, members of Pusetu held a procession along Nairobi City streets. Led by the Federation's officials, the procession passed through Moi Avenue and University Way. Their ultimate destination was Uhuru Park, where the rivals KOTU had already pitched tent to mark Labor Day celebrations. On Tuesday, the industrial court stopped Pusetu from interfering with the celebrations after KOTU convinced the court that the new workers' body may resort to violence to hijack the Labor Day celebrations.
For over a week now, KOTU and Pusetu have been talking at each other on who has the mandate to hold Labor Day celebrations. And today, Pusetu took the supremacy battles to Uhuru Park.
But a few meters before they reached the Serena Hotel, they noticed the presence of police officers. Pusetu officials engaged the GSU officers in an argument as they pleaded to be allowed to proceed to Uhuru Park.
Let the world know that we have been blocked, that we have been obstructed.
But the officers refused. They were here to enforce a court order that barred Pusetu from accessing Uhuru Park, where the rivals KOTU were marking Labor Day. When Pusetu members appeared reluctant to disperse, more reinforcements were called in. The officers were ready to deal with any eventuality and had the necessary tools to accomplish the mission. After a 20-minute standoff, Pusetu gave in and retreated. But their attempt to use Uhuru Highway to access Uhuru Park was again frustrated by Hawkeye DSU officers who intercepted them at the Nyayo House roundabout. They later marched through city streets, back to the KNUT head office on Mfangano Street, where officials addressed their members.
If we were truly a government project, the government which controls the judiciary would not have allowed the court to serve us with a court injunction. We would be seated somewhere comfortably and celebrating our Labor Day without the red berets following us.
The central organization of trade union is a government puppet, and it was formed by the government in the early 60s. And it has been used to whip the strong unions.
Nonetheless, Pusetu also pushed its demands.
We are starting from tomorrow to organize the Labor Day of 2015. And we want government to take the lead all national days.
The demand for our rightful slot in the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, the National Hospital Insurance Fund, the National Labor Board.
We have requested the government to consider increasing minimum wage by at least 25%. We propose that pay be decreased to 10% from 30%.
Pusetu has rejected the proposed reduction of retirement age from 60 years to 55 years. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Hi from Kotu and Pusetu. It is Labor Day, and tonight we want to explore the unique context and relationship between domestic workers and their employers. As workers who in many cases live in the same house and eat with their employers, is it strictly an employee-employer relationship that is regulated by law, or is it one that should be uniquely created and regulated by mutual terms of agreement? KTN's Sharon Momanyi explores.
Sandra Muluka is a resident of Nairobi and a mother of 3 children. Like many working mothers, she sought the services of a house help to watch over her children and handle household chores when she is away at work. The cordial relationship Sandra enjoyed with her house help was soon to be hit by a storm. It started when the house help's uncle died.
As we are still talking, I'm trying to explain to her, I'm not saying that you don't go, but can you go on Friday? So she starts crying and wailing. At some point, she starts banging the doors. So I let her go for like a few minutes.
Akapanda kwa stairs ni nyumba ya juu na chini. Akaniambia, Joyce, toka, chukua vitu zako toke. Mimi nikamwambia nitoke niende wapi, ni saa 4 usiku.
What followed was a fiery exchange with their individual accounts of what transpired that night totally different.
Nikamwambia acha nichukue vitu zangu sasa kwa sababu umesema nitoke kwa nyumba. Na mimi sijui kama ulikuwa na mambo mengine, kama ilikuwa hii matanga ya mjomba. Ulikuwa unanifukuza, ulikuwa na jambo zingine.
Said, you know what? Actually, in fact, I don't even need to stay here. I'll go and I won't come back. So I asked her, are you threatening me? She said, since you don't want me to go, I will go and I won't come back.
According to Joyce, it is her employer Sandra who fired her, while Sandra on her part maintains that Joyce chose to quit and even asked for her pay.
Mimi nilikuwa nataka anilipe miaka zangu. Zile zani tulimaliza na yeye. Anilipe na mimi tuachane na yeye kwa sababu ameshaleta msichana mji.
It's 1 year, but don't forget the other years when I worked for your friends. I'm going to count it as having worked for you. So I don't know. So I don't know who is advising or misadvising her, but there's some story going on.
What followed took Sandra by shock. Joyce filed a case with the Kenya Union of Domestic Workers, KUDEA, who in turn served Sandra with this demand letter. In the letter, Joyce is demanding for terminal benefits, including 1 month's pay in law of notice, payment for allegedly denying her time off duty as required by law, and underpayment of salary. The operative minimum monthly wages for domestic workers is 9,780 shillings.
I was paying my house help 6,500. I don't think I could have been able to reach that 9,500. So I think this is also a bit too high for many people.
I don't know why the employers always want to pay minimum wage, even underpay them. How do you expect that person who is working as an askari to pay his house rent, to pay for the school fees, for their transport?
A question that one may ask is, why would an employee who has worked for over a year without complaining about her pay now have the right to do so?
If I realize a mistake has been done, that does not absolve the employer from rectifying the position and paying the arrears. The employee may not be knowledgeable, but yes, the employer, you have the obligation and the duty to pay what is required in the law.
I decided now we are going to put things on paper and put things in order. So we agreed from the word go. How many days will you be going off? And it is written. And we agreed from her end, what does she require from me?
Critics, however, argue that the relationship between employers and their domestic workers is unique and not strictly an employer-servant relationship. With the cost of living on a constant high, a big number of employers still meet their costs of food and accommodation, arguing that the two parties should be left to agree on their terms depending on their unique nature of work. But on the other hand, domestic workers still need their rights protected by law. For a long time, Kenyan employers have been able to fire domestic workers with as short as a day's or immediate notice. Welcome to the new face of domestic service, where workers are lawyering up and you, the employer, need to know the do's, the don'ts, and the law. Sharon Momanyi, KTN, Nairobi.
Well, whichever way you look at it, it's definitely important for domestic workers to be treated fairly. Yes. Now, it is said that 90% of what you say doesn't actually come out of your mouth. It's all about body language.
And nowhere was this more evident than during the Labor Day celebrations, as Francis Atwoli and Kazungu Kambi finally came face to face.
Yes, Orson Buru now looks at what the two gentlemen were actually saying, even though they essentially remained rather quiet.
They have been squabbling for what almost feels like an eternity, arguing over who should be organizing the Labor Day celebrations. KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli insisted that he had the backing of millions of workers and hence he had the power to organize the celebrations. His Pusetu counterpart, Wilson Sossion, argued that Atwoli has been overtaken by events and could therefore not organize the event. In the middle of it all was Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi, who supported the bid by Pusetu. At the end of the day, KOTU were allowed to organize the event, attended by thousands of Kenyans, including Kambi, Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Olelenku, National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale, and a host of leaders from CORD. At the main days, Kambi and Atwoli sat side by side, but it's what they never said that told the whole story. As the celebrations wore on, their body language showed the tale of two men who were not exactly enjoying each other's company. Kambi chose to engage in discussions with other people, while Atwoli just sat there. At some point, Atwoli turned his back on Kambi, a clear indication that he probably would have given the world to sit anywhere else. At some point, they did engage in some light-hearted conversation, but even that was not enough to hide their displeasure. Then, in came Nairobi Senator Mike Sonko with his charm, and he was a man on a mission to reconcile the warring parties.
Mimi kama super senator wa Kenya, mimi kama mwakilishi wa wanyonge, mwakilishi wa wafanyikazi, saizi nataka kujua kama Atwoli nia yake ni ya wafanyikazi. Nataka kujua kama Kazungu Kambi ni mtetezi ya wafanyikazi.
His next move would rubber stamp what most Kenyans already knew. Atwoli and Kambi were not seeing eye to eye. A very light hug, both parties being very careful not to touch the other too much. After the hug, no eye contact, and they both went in different directions. The question now lingering on most minds is whether the two will ever mend fences enough to allow the interests of workers to take center stage. Is it the end of the battle for supremacy? Wilson Buru, KTN, Nairobi.
Well, that awkward encounter may only have been a sideshow because an 8-year-old girl is actually the one who did steal the show at the Uhuru Park event today. Her conduct during and after the performance immediately triggered some social media reactions. But the question remains, who was she and what was she up to? Well, Ian Wafula tells us.
8-year-old Carol Muthoni stunned many with her courage, aggression and passion as she recited her poem entitled Francis Atwoli.
Honorable Atwoli ni mtu wa kutegemewa. Honorable Atwoli kumbuka Daudi.
A poem praising KOTU's Secretary General Francis Atwoli. She even unexpectedly walked to the dais and grabbed Atwoli by the hand to join her during the performance.
Honorable Atwoli ni mtu wa kutegemewa. Macho ya chura, Honorable Atwoli hayatazuia ng'ombe kunywa maji.
And out of the blues, Atwoli showered the girl with a bundle of money. And soon afterwards, Nairobi Senator Mike Sonko also gave her some money, as did a number of other leaders. It did not stop there. After the performance, the girl was then spotted on the dais, moving from one guest to another in what appeared to be soliciting for more money. The comments of those following the events portrayed the shock, anger, and even amusement of the girl's conduct. For instance, Kevin Osido wonders, why would an 8-year-old be doing such? Is it passion, courage, patriotism, or political propaganda? Monica Wangui is Carol's mother. She watches on the sidelines as her daughter enjoys her moment of fame. Her newfound fans are seeking to take pictures with her, maybe even an autograph. According to Monica, her daughter almost missed the opportunity to perform. Mother and daughter left their home in Kitengela early in the morning, hoping to persuade the organizers to allow Carol perform. She wasn't on the program.
Pale juu tulipata askari mmoja, tukamwambia tunataka kuenda hapo juu, tukamwambia mtoto ana perform. Akatuuliza kama tuko na kadi. Tukamwambia kadi yetu, tukamuonyesha picha yenye tulimpiga akiwa kwa Ruto. Hiyo ndio ilitusimamia tukapita mpaka kwa MC.
So when it came to Wangari came and asked me, I told him, what is it about? He said, but she's not in the program. They said, no, he's a young girl. We just think that we need to give her an opportunity.
And so Carol got her big break. But she took the event organizers by surprise when she walked to the dais during her performance.
So when it looks like she's coming up, Atola asked me, what do we do? I said, akikuchukua enda na yeye.
It is, however, her courage and talent that seemed to move the crowd and the Secretary General.
That was a bright guy. Because she thought if we just come to sell the CDs, people are going to ask, who is this person? But the fact that there was an incident prior to her bringing the CDs, even that's why most of us were to buy the CDs.
It also became apparent that she was not soliciting for money. Instead, she was selling copies of her CD.
Walikuwa kiitisha wengine na wapelekea, but wakubwa ni wao walikuwa kiitisha.
Yenye nilipata kwa mkono hivi ni 25,000 na kuna zingine tulipewa na Mike Sonko dollars. Sasa hizo si kuhesabu ni ngapi, na kuna zingine dola tuko nayo ya 300.
And she soon reverted to her natural role of being the little girl that she is. Her mother says Carol has performed in other public functions before. Carol Mudhoni walks home a lucky girl as her mother continues to reap the benefits of talent nurturing. As Carol's luck comes today, meant to celebrate employment and its opportunities. Ian Wafula, KTN.
Oh, 50,000 shillings for one day is not bad, I say.
Quite entrepreneurial, therefore, Mudhoni. Well, that has been our continued coverage of the day's Labor Day celebrations. And away from that, 7 people perished in a road accident which occurred along the Nakuru-Kericho highway this evening.
The 7 died when a saloon car rammed into an oncoming matatu.
Here are some of the pictures from the scene. You're watching KTN Prime on this Labor Day, the 1st of May 2014. We take a short break, but don't go too far. We have a lot more on the other side of the break. This is KTN Prime.
Just ahead, the woman who jumped down 3 stories of a building to evade arrest.
You're watching KTN Prime.
And we're back with more of the day's events. Thanks for staying with us on KTN Prime.
Now, the ongoing Usalama Watch operation has affected residents of Nairobi's Eastleigh estate in ways that many living outside the area may not understand. KTN's Habiba Ali met 2 young women nursing serious injuries incurred as they escaped from police arrest.
Right at the heart of Nairobi's Eastleigh estate lies a woman with a heavy burden. 24-year-old Nadifa Abdi lies on her hospital bed, breathing in pain. Nadifa fell from the 3rd floor of a 3-story building where she lives, here in Eastleigh. She was evading arrest by police officers on the Operation Usalama Watch.
Sina pesa kwa nyumba. Alafu mimi anagopa kwa hiyo
hivyo. Mara mingi anaingia kwa nyumba na anasema lete pesa.
Nadhifa is 4 months pregnant.
We have to terminate the pregnancy because of the predation that the baby went through because of the operation that was to be done for the lower back.
Her husband was away in Sudan when the incident occurred.
Nimesikia vibaya sana. Mara kwanza kuona kwa sura yake ni sahi. Sahi leo umepata shida na mpaka sahi. Lakini tunaweza sema kwa Mwenyezi Mungu tu.
Nadhifa's case is not the only one. 20-year-old Hodho Abdullahi suffered a similar fate 2 days after Nadhifa. Both of these women have suffered serious injuries.
The damage is very severe. The lower backbone is, you see, there are nerves which are running in between those bones. They have to be bedridden for a long time, close to 3 and more than 3 months. Even as we speak now, they have catheters. They cannot go to the toilet.
Hodho is deaf. I engage her in lip reading, a language her father says she understands best. But just then she interrupts to show me a mark on her left arm. I'm a Kenyan, she struggles to tell me. Apparently, the mark is from the vaccination she received after she was born.
Although she is in Kenya, she born in Kenya, she born in Garissa province in 1993.
The police say they are not aware of the incident as they have not been reported. The police say they have launched investigations. I'm standing at the point where Nadhifa fell on after she fell down from the 3rd floor of this building. She stayed there for 3 minutes before neighbors came to her rescue and rushed her to the hospital. Habiba Ali, KTN.
Very sad situation. Let's change tack now. And in this new phenomenon that for now we'd like to call New Age patriotism, Kenyans on Twitter took on their South African counterparts following comments made by the South African sports minister regarding Kenyan athletes. Wilson Buru tells us more.
The social networking site Twitter has been heating up since Tuesday afternoon after South African Sports Minister Fikile Mbalula apparently misspoke. The minister was answering a question from a report on the issue of some national teams stubbornly refusing to incorporate black players. And he responded, "You can't transform sports without targets. But at the same time, South Africa wouldn't be like Kenya and send athletes to the Olympics to drown in the pool." A few hours later, hashtag Someone Tell South Africa was trending worldwide. In fact, it was such a hot topic on Twitter, CNN picked it up, tweeting, "The rest of Twitter at standstill as Kenyans massacre South Africa in TWIF. Hashtag Someone Tell South Africa. Hashtag Someone Tell Kenya." It is not the first time Kenyans on Twitter have taken on another country. First, there was hashtag Someone Tell Botswana after President Uhuru Kenyatta was allegedly declared persona non grata in their country. And then there was hashtag Someone Tell Nigeria after news broke of the poor accommodation provided to the Harambee Stars during a visit to Nigeria for a World Cup qualifier. And then there's this latest one. The tweets and the memes from the hashtag Someone Tell South Africa are rib-cracking. For example, Nyakundi H says, "South Africans should tell us where they live. South Africa is a direction, not the name of a country." Tim Tor says, "This is what Kenyans do to other people in athletics." Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Judy Wakungu even got sucked into the discussion, commenting that the hashtag made for good banter. Some South Africans have even started their own hashtag, Someone Tell Mbalula, and the comments are far from flattering. It's not the first time Mbalula has made some not-so-palatable comments. When Nigeria beat the Bafana in an African Nations Championship qualifier, he called the team a bunch of losers and refused to apologize.
What I saw there was not a problem of coaching, was a bunch of losers who don't have got any respect for this country, have got any respect for anybody.
But beneath all the banter on social media is a serious diplomatic issue which, if not properly handled, may create a wedge between the two countries which have experienced cordial relations over the years. Speaking to KTN, Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed expressed her disappointment over the unfortunate comments by Mbalula over the same.
I'd actually like to register our disappointment.
at those remarks that were made by Honorable Batula. I think it's important that negative and inaccurate statements are addressed right at the beginning. Well, I think it would be wonderful to see him retract his statement and apologize to Kenya's swimmers. And I think we are all very upset that, in fact, he's so ignorant about Africa.
KTN, Nairobi.
Well, somebody tell Mbalula that it's very hard to win against Kenyans on Twitter.
Oh, yes, and South Africa is just the latest to feel the wrath of KOT.
Indeed.
I'm sure, wasn't there someone tell Uganda at some
and
point?
Nigeria
Someone
and
tell
CNN.
Nigeria and CNN. So we're on a roll.
Yes.
You're watching KTN Prime. Do stay with us. More ahead.
You're watching KTN Prime.
Welcome back. Now, Kenya's thorny issue of land featured prominently as the Inequality Conference ended in Accra, Ghana last night.
Yes, analysts say landlessness could yet pose a great threat to the stability of countries across the continent. Here's KTN's Joe Ageo with more from Accra.
On the farms across Zimbabwe, life has changed for many white farmers who once controlled more than 70% of Zimbabwe's arable land. They fell victim to a controversial land reform program that sparked a heated debate across the world. Professor Sam Moyo saw it all, and he says it was an extraordinary solution to an extraordinary problem.
We had about 4,500 large-scale white farmers. We now have close to 200,000 black indigenous farmers, 75% of which are mainly peasant families.
Yet the problem of land is hardly an exclusively Zimbabwean affair. All across Africa, each country has a story to tell about land. Kenyan Senator Bill Okero of Mandera County, who is attending the Pan-African Conference on Inequalities here in Accra, says land is at the center of marginalization of communities such as his, where people own much of it but are still regarded as poor.
People have 100 acres of land or 50 acres of land, and they can't afford school fees, they can't afford a square meal, and you know, you can't use the land, becomes valueless. Yet in the rest of the world, the economies you see in the West, really, every single item of asset is used as a collateral, and it's factored in the economy.
Indeed, land in Kenya remains a political hot button, but even under the new constitution, which seeks to address land inequality, challenges still remain.
The regimes that have governed Kenya have not shown political will to address that matter consistently, because they have also a keen interest in the ownership and the use of this land.
Where title deed, getting a title deed is more or less becoming a privilege, really, and governments have to announce, you know, this year we're going to give you so many titles, we shall go issue so many titles. I think that should not be the case.
Now, the question of land was at the center of the struggle for freedom in almost every country in Africa. 50 years later, it now stands as one of the biggest threats to the stability of the countries that emerged out of that struggle. Joageo, KTN, Accra, Ghana.
Thank you, Joe. And let's now take a look at our top story tonight. And we brought you the news that the workers in the country will now have to wait until the end of the year for a minimum wage increment. The state revealed this as the Federation of Kenya Employers raised the alarm that the wage burden was threatening to paralyze growth in most companies. The Workers' Day celebrations were attended by the Labour Cabinet Secretary and a host of leaders from Parliament, even as members of the Pusetu Union held demonstrations in Nairobi after being locked out of the Uhuru Park venue.
So, Ben, today we give a Most Diligent Viewer Award to Edwin Muthabuku. because he
Wants a
tweeted
big
us.
queue.
And he's asking, is there no big question today? And we say, well, it's Labor Day, so you get the day off.
Yeah, that's your prize.
Yes. Well, we are heading to our sports studio now. We've got Nick Mudimba there with all the latest news in sports. Nick, how are you this evening?
I'm very okay, and Nancy, of course, this evening we've got details for you as far as rugby is concerned. We managed to talk to Paul True, who is the head coach of the Kenya Sevens, and of course a strong squad for the Diamond League in Doha. I'll giving you all the goals from Atletico Madrid that shocked Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. All that at KTN Sports today. Let's talk some sports. I'm Nicholas Mudimba. The National Sevens rugby coach Paul True has effected tactical changes to the team that plays in the 8th leg of the IRB series in Glasgow, Scotland this weekend. I spoke to True a while ago and said that the changes he'll make will trigger the passion the team had before his arrival. And of course, Kenya will start its campaign against Wales on Saturday. Let's now talk athletics. At least Kenyan global medalists have been listed to taking part in the 2014 Diamond League Series opener in Doha on the 9th of this month. The meeting will bring together 25 Olympic medalists and 25 current and former world champions in a competition that is expected to shape the track and field season. Lynn Washira reports.
There's no denying that the return of the 800 meters world record holder and Olympic champion David Rudisha will be the highlight of the Doha Diamond League. It will be Rudisha's first race since picking up a knee injury in May last year that ruled him out of the 2013 season, including the World Championships in Moscow. It will, however, not be just about King David's return, since the organizers have lived up to the tradition of assembling a stellar field in Doha.
Let's now talk some sport that is not so familiar to many of us. Admasu and Meki Abbas of the team Gidus are the 2014 winners of the second edition of the Heineken Football, not football, but football tournament, after narrowly winning the tie against Team Mandulis. Team Gidus had a fine display that enabled the team to be an energetic and experienced Team Mandulis of Nairobi Tribeca Lounge by 1 point to take with the title with a 1918 point. The football tournament in Kenya saw a total of 256 teams participate from Coast, Mount Kenya region, Rift Valley, Western and Nairobi, with 32 of this making it to the preliminary rounds. The team Gidus have secured a trip to the legendary island of Ibiza to experience the ultimate Heineken live screening of the UEFA Champions League.